Welcome back to part number 11. The game is essentially over, but on my end there's quite a bit to do. See if I can enjoy myself with a dynamic jigsaw puzzle. I guess I could go buy a large jigsaw puzzle and diddle around with it, or I can spend excessive amounts of time moving pops about and seeing if I can tweak this map to my liking. Again, there's nothing to do relative to a standard play. Warring is done. I'm integrating Yamnat. I'm integrating essentially most of these except maybe two, and they'll be integratable shortly.
Why continue, you might ask? The answer is right here. Quite simply, Imperator is a civ builder, not a map painter, as it has been much maligned as. Furthermore, why continue? The question is, it's about defining or discovering, as the government or leading cabal of your nation, what makes your civilization unique, and showing the world in whichever manner you choose what your civilization, insert civilization here, which would be Albion, is about.
Let's take a look at the Druidism. It's spread quite far. Our culture is spread as well. The population map, my goal of thinning out this area is happening slowly but surely. Sooner or later, like maybe by the next 5-year update, it'll look like this. This area is thinned out nicely. Most of the pops are down in this direction here. Some of these cities are approaching 400 pops. I built out the capital region. Our city cost is down to 27.5 and 110 gold, so I'm going to completely industrialize the region of Belgica, or urbanize the region of Belgica. By the time I'm done, a lot of these guys are promoting, and they will soon add to our noble ratio, I'm sure, as they do indeed promote any given territory. There's probably some promotion going on. A lot of these cities are very new. There are a lot of wrong culture pops about in various areas, a lot of wrong religion pops. In theory, at least, the closer you get to the capital, I'm sure the more wrong religion you find as they migrate into these cities hard. We have a migration attraction of 78.83, and we have the law in place to where they migrate very quickly. Some of them, most of them, end up in the capital province now. Some of them still do wander down here. I have some cities built in these various areas that get assimilating and converting done. But these temples and theaters in the cities here are going to get the vast majority of the work, the heavy lifting done. As there are no more pops here to move to the capital, the only source is the migration. And if you click on any coastal territory, like this one doesn't have the 78 migration attraction, but there are still quite a few pops headed there. There seems to be some danger of maybe running out of food. I have some, like if I want to import some food, I have only 7 grain available? How is that a thing? That's strange. Yeah, that's what it says, 7 grain. I haven't paid it much mind. It's always been 20, 30, 40 or whatnot. We have fish, livestock, and vegetables. I am heavy into grain over here in our new conquests. I suppose I should move some of the Seleucid pops onto these various grain territories here. Or here, we can escalate to these territories here, I'm sure. Dredge up some grain. These pops, I moved them out. As I said, I moved them all to a capital city, the primary culture pops, and then bounce about 5 or 6 pops out to various territories so that will assimilate. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few that could be moved here. Will that flip the area to primary culture? I doubt it very much, but every little bit helps us close, within 3. We have a singular legion, the Drills, with a highly loyal commander. Just sits there, Drills. We bank 1.86 mil experience. I have the tradition This is the one I was after, the found city cost modifier and pop assimilation speed. Suppose I could take other stuff, but there's really no other stuff that's relevant per se. I was after the Persian traditions, actually. I think I can... Yeah, I'm one away. I really should... Well, once I get a sufficient amount of mill experience, I suppose I could try to take that, integrate a Persian culture group, and grab some innovations. I'm after money, and just recently took this 3% slave output. We would get this crucifixion bit going here for another 2.5 tax and slave output there as well. That's about it. We make a truckload of money, 1,621, but I spend it as fast as I get it. Let's take a look at those numbers. So quite a few nobles about. Try to minimize the number of slaves. Somehow there are 82 tribesmen. I don't know where they are, but I'm sure they will demote to slaves, and then we can move them to a city or whatnot. Maybe they'll be nobles or some such. So here are the 705 numbers. 8.3% growth in the capital. Capital province 6.5. The capital city 5.5. A lot of these pops that migrate to the capital and move out to these territories now that I've urbanized them with the theater and temple. I haven't done really a lot in Amorica, Celtica, Transalpine Gaul. Pops didn't really reproduce all that much. A lot of this was from warring, this 4.3, especially warring and integration. We continue to assimilate about 3%, surprisingly enough. We about maybe 3% here as well, or thereabouts, or 3.7%. So here we have a 12.5% noble population, and that continues to go up. Our citizens go up, our freemen go up, our slaves go down. It's as per the plan. And let's see, Baetica grew by a 3.9%. Illyria, a lot of pops moved out. Some of them, I think, they may have gone through the Alpine passes up to the capital area. It's not really all that far. There's not really all that many pops either to move. Pannonia, much the same. They're ended up in Moesia, Thrace, or Sarmatica, Europa, or the capital. Macedonia didn't really do much there, and it's about the same except for Taurica, which saw an influx of pops. Here's the 710 update. Not a lot has changed. The pop map looks about the same. Been letting some time pass and spending most of my resources and time trying to build the capital region here up into a completely urban center that assimilates and converts all these pops to primary culture. I find that tinkering with these territories here, there's not a lot of pops that grow. I haven't invested in the technologies, and essentially it's not really worth my time to extract them unless it's like colored like this. And these are not completely primary, so at least I don't think they, well, actually they are. I should probably move them out. I probably will by the 715 update and inhabit these cities over here. Actually, there's a secret path here. It's not really all that far. You use you can get here, and then here you can extract some pops from there, move them down in here, you end up here, and then boom, sort of close to this area here. Oddly enough, you go through this mountain pass. These mountain passes are highly contested. Oftentimes it's mixed up, and the Roman is there. So once the Roman goes, you can actually cross pops across or trans-alpine pass here, if you will, fairly easily. Believe it or not, province building here, or region building, is cheap relative to shuffling pops about all the time. So I was able to acquire quite a bankroll. I think I had about 30K at some point, and I pretty much got all the theaters built out here. There are some that still need to get built. By the end of the game, I probably will, and for whatever the reason. These cities here, I didn't do much in this last five-year update. Still about the same size, which is essentially very large. There are some pops here they probably need to shuffle down. They're probably mostly primary. They are. That's another good thing about letting 5 years pass. They assimilate and convert and whatnot. You just grab a whole bundle and just start clicking the button, really. Here's the map. It's turning green. This area is coming along. The cultural map is better than I would have expected. Let's take a look at the numbers. There they are. Capital provenance grew by about 5%. It's about the same. 5% here. The capital city grew by 7.3. These, some of them grew, some of them not, but generally mostly up. Didn't do anything here, here. Whole population grew by 1.8. Assimilated about 3%. Converted about 3% more. Nobles keep spiking up by 0.7. Citizens a little bit up, freemen a little down, slaves a little down. This area I didn't really do much with any of it, so there's nothing to report. We have reached the 7:15 update and the board is completely clear, so that's the rest out is 100% building. The 5-year period was good to the capital region. I've completely urbanized it and I'm in the process of assimilating and converting the various pops. It's not filled up, but these pops all have temples and theaters and should resolve very quickly. There's still quite a bit of migration that comes in here. It's a 40 or thereabouts attraction there. The capital is still around 80 or thereabouts. The countryside is thinning out. I did move some pops from this area here up across this terrain here. It's not really all that far. You can move them into these long provenances here, which usually serve as a barrier between moving this way and that way, but it can also serve as a collection point for either side. You can move them up this shaft-shaped thing here a bit, these provenances, into here, over here, there, and then boom. Right here, there's a crossing right to the capital provenance. The rest of the board generally about the same. I haven't really done much with Africa or Italy. Did a little bit of tinkering here with pops. Left Greece alone. This area generally left alone. Some movement into Torque. I grabbed some pops from this provenance here, maybe that. Moved them out this way. I grabbed a couple of pops from here. I think here, moved them toward the Bactrian provenances. Turned this area primary culture. What I did stumble on is a very interesting mechanic. I was always curious how it would work over a, say, 10 to 15 year period. So, in the last episode, I commented that I essentially bounced all of the pops from these cities out into the countryside, where they would assimilate and convert. So I left as few of pops in the cities as possible. Any given territory, you'll note that there's, like, say, 6 or 7 or whatnot pops about. At least it was that way when I started. And then once they convert and assimilate, I'll move them to the cities. Any given capital provenance here is where I've been. First of all, I pick a capital provenance that has very few pops in it. That's also a city. So this one was necessarily had the fewest number of pops when I started this maybe 15 years ago. So I moved the capital there, and then I consolidated all of the primary culture and religion pops there. And then I moved all of the pops from these other cities out into the surrounding countryside, grain fields or whatnot, just as many as I could. So 10 to 15 years later, we now have more primary culture religion pops here than most anywhere else, and I can then grab more pops from these other cities without a lot of regard for their culture or religion, able to move more non-primary culture pops from the surrounding countryside and or cities under the threshold of our primary culture to where our primary culture all end up promoting. Here's another, was able to have 40 primary culture pops here, 38 primary culture pops here. It works very well. It's very reasonably time consuming. Would I do it if this weren't, say, my last Imperator game before EU5 comes out? Probably not. But they are helping with the noble ratio. Let's take a look at those numbers. Here are the numbers. The capital grew by another 7.5%. It's still growing. Capital province about the same, capital city thereabouts about the same. A lot of these other territories are growing as I'm moving pops there and keeping them in the capital as opposed to moving them to Amorica, although it still did grow. The rest of this, well, we had 2.8% pop growth, probably Yamnat integrated. We have an increase of about 2.5% on our assimilative population. We have about, 2% here as well. Our nobles spiked up another 0.5%. That's getting more challenging to rise, but it has gone from 9.2 to 13.7. Slaves continue to diminish in number, down to 33% or 1/3 of the population. I added Bactriana and Sogdiana to the mix. It's not a lot of action there or whatnot, but I am doing something with it, so I thought I'd track it. As I said in the narration, there's really nothing that got done in any of these areas, so there's that. Welcome back to the 720 update. It's about the same as it was. I essentially ran out of steam. There's so much micromanagement of these pops that can get done in the subcontinent, here, there, here. I just don't have the wherewithal to do it. I've accomplished the goal of civ building. We have civilized the barbarous tribal territories of Belgica and the surrounding region. Completely depopulated most of it. I could move more. There probably are various pops about at this point. 2 pops there, 7 pops there, wherever. Some can be moved down here, but I'm going to try to concentrate mostly on getting these pops in our completely urbanized capital region assimilated and converted. They seem to be coming along well. I just sort of let the time pass, and it looks as though it's getting under control here. I probably won't have to do much of anything, really, as these will assimilate very quickly. Let's take a look at the aggregate maps with the coloring before we go on to the numbers. Very druidic, mostly Trinovantian except here, of course, and lots of pops micro that can be done here but is not going to get done. Again, I just let the time pass, so there wasn't as large an influx into the capital as one might think. I didn't move any pops manually. All this is either growth or I would imagine most of it must be migration. Not a lot of movement here happened, although apparently some did. These areas have remained the same. Really, it's just we have more assimilation that went on, in fact quite a bit of it. 3% assimilation here, 2.5% conversion. Our nobles continue to spike. We have a 14.6% of the population now. We've dipped under 1/3 of slaves, so that's good. These areas, nothing happened, nothing at all. Welcome to the final update for the Albion playthrough. It is a couple of weeks past the end date of the game, 7/27. We're still the only ones here, as we have been for some time. Our population is about the same as it was. Our heavily urbanized or completely urbanized capital has come along very well. Most of these pops are primary culture or soon will be, and I'm sure many of them are mostly druidic as well. The temples have done very well. We have a lot of boni. We have mostly druidicized the map here. There are some holdouts up here, over here, some Arabic down here, just integrated Yamnat, not particularly long ago, but mostly druidic. Lots of Trinovantianism about. Our pops and culture are such. We have 90,000 pops at present, 14,000 nobles, citizens, freemen, etc. As per the goal, have as few slaves as possible relative to nobles, freemen, and citizens. It wasn't exactly as optimal as it could have been, as there's a lot of pops out here working grain fields. The city, capital cities or capital mega region would have starved had I moved many of these pops off of the grain fields. There are a great many pops here on these grain fields, working them essentially all of these grain fields are heavily utilized, maxed out on the population, and produce quite a bit of grain. Is this baked into the logic of the chariot tribal thing over here, ending up over in the chariot Morian area over here? And perhaps. I think it could be connected. There's a lot of mercs over here, and if you were having a tougher time of it than I did, per se, like you were playing the original iteration of the game, where it was a lot harder to progress into a world conquest than it is at present with the Marius update, these chariots Boni would have come in very handy here for the mercenaries and such that I would have been using in this area. Anyway, be all that as it may or may not be, I had quite a lot of fun doing the civ building thing. That's this campaign, as per our former game director, has detailed it as a civ builder. I agree most wholeheartedly. Let's take a look at the numbers. Here they are. The capital region grew by 5%, capital province 8.2, capital city 8.4. Various areas shuffled some pops about, mostly from the capital to these areas via migration. Amorica grew a bit, it's probably organic. The population itself grew by 1.8%. Fair clip of assimilation went on. All these numbers are skewed because of the, this one went from 720 to 727, so we have another 2 years, but make of it what you will. We now have 81% of our pops as a primary religion. We have 15.4% nobles, and 31.4% slaves, 21.2% citizens, and 31.5% freemen. This other page, I'm not going to update it. Nothing got done. This is mostly irrelevant, or nearly completely so. If you click the link in the description, it was going to link to a time-lapse. I chose an old metal song by the British band Judas Priest, Grinder. Due to the grind that it was at the end of the game, moving all these pops, so I finally threw up my hands. And then I like the lyrics about off the beaten track and fighting back. It made me think of the Albion Roman thing. So you want to check that as well.